outside today, so it was almost subtropical.
Right, so I've just started recording, and yes, thank you very much. Thank you for all that of attending. Thank you for your time as always.
There I am.
There you are. I'm just going to turn myself down. Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
And just following on from last night's meeting, really, how which was, as far as we're concerned, a great outcome, and shows the support that the council are now giving towards our campaign and how we're going to move forward. So
I think the council always had support for your campaign, just we were doing it in a different way, trying to negotiate rather than be confrontational as such. So it weren't the fact we weren't actually on your side, we were just trying to do it in a different way, on the basis that as councillors we find that quite often by negotiation you get more sorted out than stamping and screaming and doing stuff. But there comes a point when sometimes, as I call it, a hogwart howler has to happen.
and I think there's various ways to skin a cat, isn't there? And
That's right.
I'm very much of the same ilk, that we want to discuss these things, and that's the three of us that are on this call are the same. But I think there's always different ways of approaching this that we need to make sure that we're taking everyone's views into account, and we can certainly do that here. The only thing that I took from yesterday's meeting was that you said there was an email that you received. You said just before Christmas.
No, the letter was dated the 21st of December.
Right.
I only got it from Michael Gove's office in, I think, the 4th, 5th or 6th of January. So what I was going to do, in order to try and pool our sort of literal resources to draw together a letter, which will be quite similar, but it will be different, one to Jeremy Quinn and one to the MOD. If I emailed you, I know Joe's got copies, if I emailed you the letter that was copied from Michael Gove's office from Jeremy Quinn, if I do it to Carl, you can then circulate it, it'd be easier that way. If I also send you a copy of the FOI answer, which I originally got, which at the beginning of the letter sets out my 3 questions, and I then also copy you in my complaint about what I don't believe was covered by their FOI answer, that may well help to draw together the strands of what we need to do and what we need to include and how we need to include it. I was just thinking today about how I started writing the letter. I thought, well, I'm not too sure how far to get into this letter without.
No, and I think we need a working draft, don't we? Really.
That's right. And I'm just wondering whether, bearing in mind, you might want to use some of Simon Brown's facts and bits and pieces along with the responses. My initial thought was perhaps if you wanted to put into what you think are the main points of the letter, bringing out all the facts and figures, and then we can top and tail it from an Ash Parish Council perspective on the basis it's coming from us as the sort of, in inverted commas, the authorised people that MOD were told to talk to. But we'll leave it there because they didn't talk too openly. And then if I then send you the adjusted copy back to you just to confirm you're okay with the top and tailing, I can then whack it off as chairman of the council to both the parties concerned and see where we go from there. I just feel it's important that we get it right first time.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
I think that it is also that we need to make sure that obviously there's a letter to the MOD, and as Mr. Quinn is the responsible man for that, should we not be including him in both letters to fully understand what our request is and how and make sure he's up to speed on that discussion. I know you've had those separate discussions, and we need to understand. I think he needs to understand that focal point really.
Yeah, what I was looking to do was to actually copy the letter to the MOD as a attachment to the letter we send to.
Okay. Perfect.
But at the same time, I was also going to copy both what we sent to MOD and to Jeremy Quinn to Michael Gove.
Yeah.
So that Michael Gove actually understands the disparity between what we've been told, what subsequently came out, and the fact that Jeremy Quinn is still answering his letter based on the first argument that MOD put in, not the supplementary argument they put in regarding health and safety. So I think that Michael needs to understand fully where the disparity between what MOD told us, what they then changed their mind to, and also the fact that he is clearly responding or sending a letter out, which was clearly written for him by either the MOD or his advisors, based on information provided by the MOD, which is out of date effectively because, say the H&S side of it just wasn't touched on his letter at all, as you'll see when I send it to you.
It might be out of date, Nigel, but it was also very inaccurate.
Well, can't quite hear you, Peter. Let me see if I can turn my sound up a little bit.
Right, I said it may have been out of date, but it was also very inaccurate because they started off your letter, as I remember, by saying they closed the Ash Range complex due to the cost of vandalism, and there hadn't been vandalism at Henley Gate or Stony Castle. But
well, they didn't touch. That's right. That's what they said. That's where the inconsistency is because
no, that's incorrect. What I'm saying is not inconsistent. It's blatantly incorrect because the press briefing they gave to the Guildford Dragon and the one they gave to you, the two main pictures that they showed for vandalism, which was a gate that had been ripped off its hinges and a fencing pulled down, actually wasn't in the Range complex. They were at Stony Castle and Henley Gate.
Right. Okay. Well, I didn't. It wasn't titled as to where that picture was coming from, and we were only talking about Ash Ranges or the Ash firing plates to MOD. So you assume that when you're talking about the Ash firing plates, the MOD are going to show you pictures of the Ash firing plates.
And I think we've already done that to death. The assumption there is I know. I understand it. It's historic and taking best efforts and all the rest of it. I understand that. I'm not trying to impose any sort of criticism there. I think we're at a point now where we can take those letters, respond to them, as you say. We all take those as a group and give you a draft. Presumably, if we've got time tomorrow, we can work on that between the three of us and get Simon's involvement with his bits and pieces as well.
Yeah, because I'd like to get it right. And if it takes an extra couple of days, bearing in mind how long it's been going on for, I'd rather take the extra couple of days rather than rush and go half cocked. So if I send this stuff over to you immediately we finish this meeting, then that can be circulated, and then people can pore over the next sort of a couple of days or whatever, and sort of Joe and myself, we can start putting together the Ash top and tail and bits in between in terms of our own perspective of being misled.
Can we just clarify the means of those? No, the means. What is the extent of those two letters? The first one to the MOD, you were saying last night that you would request reinstatement of the opening of the Ash Ranges. Is that right?
Well, I think our first avenue is going to be that we want the Ash Ranges reopened fully. I think that's going to be the opening stance. Now, on the basis of when you read Jeremy Quinn's letter, it's pretty damn clear they're not going to do that. But I still think that should be our opening stance, bearing in mind they've given reasons for doing it, which actually they've changed, and they've not been able to prove any of them. So I think that's our first line of attack. It's really then a question is do we want to put in that letter some other sort of gateway for them to say well, or to find some other proposal that actually meets the Ash residents' requirements. I don't think that's the right place to do it at the time. At the
No,
moment,
I'm saying that our remit has always been reinstate what we had and then discuss the future. And I think that should be the case here, is that we want to open discussion. If they've got concerns, we want to open those discussions that they said they opened with you back in 2018.
if only.
And start that conversation if there is concerns, and how as a community we can mitigate those. And there's obviously options available that we've all discussed and we all can all raise, but at the moment we are at very much a reinstate what we've got and come to the table to actually start talking about this in a proper and professional manner.
Yep, that's right. So another thing that crossed my mind only a couple of days ago was they talk about health and safety. Well, I can understand health and safety at night time, but at daytime it may be something else we can think of as an option to put to them, is that they open the ranges when they're not firing, or the firing plates when they're not firing, during daytime hours.
Yeah.
And that there's big signs going up there saying, you know, these are operational firing ranges. Whilst firing is not taking place, you enter these premises at your own risk. Now they say that's not sufficient to absolve themselves of responsibility. But that may be another possibility we can throw into the melting pot as
Yeah. But I think that's for discussion and conversations with them rather than.
Interestingly, I mean, I'm not for a moment suggesting we do anything other than take the chance, as you said, Nigel, to reopen, give us back what we originally had, and then we can discuss. But interestingly, in some other ranges in the local area, they do, where they are sometimes closed, they notices as you enter that say you enter at your own risk.
I mean, there's notices similar on the whole of the ranges, Kate.
Yeah.
There was, caution butts and all that sort of thing. There's notices there for people that want to adhere to them. It's like anything, though, people won't.
Right. I think the argument could be, well, I entered the ranges at 10 o'clock at night. I didn't see the sign.
Yeah.
So there was an argument for saying, well, yeah, shut them at night time, shut them at dusk. You know, we shut our car parks at dusk and whatever.
Yeah, but Nigel, but I think we need to be pretty clear that we do not want a separation between the range complex and Henley Gate and Stony Castle. They're exactly the same.
Oh, I agree.
And so we shouldn't say we'll do something different at the range complex.
No, okay. At the moment, the Henley Gate and Stony Castle are open all the time. Although they say there's a barrier there, it doesn't stop people walking through past the barrier or coming in from the back.
Yeah, there's no sign saying don't come in.
That's right. That's right. Of course, the converse argument, if you think of the sword of Damocles, if you argue that Stony Castle and Henley Gate are open while they treat Ash Ranges, they could turn around and actually then shut the other two on the basis
they've already said categorically they have no intention of reducing any further access to any other part of the range danger
area. Yeah. I'd take that with a pinch of salt, wouldn't you?
They're not being consistent if they do.
No. But they've not been consistent or living up to their promises in any of this conversation. That's why we're here, Nigel.
That's right. So that's what I'll do. As soon as we finish the meeting, I'll go back to my emails and forward the bits and pieces that I've mentioned to you. If you could just confirm that you've got them to make sure they're not lost in the ether. Yeah. And then Joe and I, over the next few days, will get together and start penning an eloquent opening and whatever. Then hopefully we can get the bits and pieces together and merge.
So we've discussed the letter to the MOD, and the one to Mr. Quinn will be of similar ilk. But
it'll be similar, but I think in terms of the one to him, it just needs to point out that he is not being given the truth, because whilst we were told vandalism and loss of training, dog poo seems to have got lost in the conversation. Whilst he's mentioning that in the letter, the MOD in September said that it's nothing to do with vandalism, it's to do with health and safety. So why isn't he tackling the health and safety issue in that letter to me? Therefore, clearly he's not being given the truth, and perhaps you'd like to find out the truth. So try and explain to him that they are MOD are basically not being truthful to him either.
Okay.
Because I think at the end of the day, it's going to be the minister that makes the final decision. As he did when he said, "You talk to the parish council, don't ignore them anymore." He can turn around and say, "Okay, we want sort something out that meets both your desire to keep the ranges safe, keep the training time, but also meets the requirements of Ash residents to gain access." And it may not, at the end of the day, whether we get the full reopening, I don't know. But what I personally want is something which enables Ash residents, particularly those with less mobility, to be able to walk on the flat part of the ranges, at least to get the exercise and the fresh air that they need, as opposed to walking around the perimeter path, which is only really ever accessible to people that are able-bodied. I think the path is so undulating and uneven. It's not really capable of being used by those that are less mobile, and they are a significant part of the community. The elderly, and disabled people and people with in between. There's a lot of them, and they are being disadvantaged by the decision the MOD took without consultation. I think we just need to point that out. There's a lot of people being affected.
Yeah, totally agree. Okay.
Which is what we've been trying to do with the local MOD team face to face, which why I think the message got through. But then HQ at Whitehall took over and are making these decisions. We're now going to make them see sense as well now, really.
Okay. I'm not sure we need the whole. Is there anything else that anyone wants to raise, or we just try and get on that?
No,
I think getting these letters out is probably the most important thing now, to start putting the pressure back. As soon as I get an answer to my complaint, whether it's 20 working days, which will probably be after our next meetings. I'm sure you want a meeting in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah.
I can't see us getting a response to any letters we send out within less than 3 weeks anyway. But whether you want to have another meeting in a shorter period, there's nothing to say. I don't know. We can probably decide that nearer the time.
No, and I think the only thing that I want to make sure is that once we do have this letters and this information, that obviously we can make public these statements and this conversation as much as we can.
Well, my view is that these letters will be open letters.
Okay, and then we publish them on the parish council website. And
I think we need to. I think people need to see that we are on their side, as we've always been, but because of the discussions we've had and certain commitments that the discussions were not raising people's expectations. They'd go away and think about it and don't do this. We've not been probably as open as we'd like to have been, but now that we've really reached an impasse and they've changed their mind since September as to the reasons, I think effectively the gloves are off and we let people know exactly what's going on, who we're writing to, and the contents of that disinformation that's been given out.
Good, thank you.
So Nigel, is that something that you can do to put those letters that you've had from Quinn and the MOD onto the parish council website for public?
I was talking about the letters to the MOD.
We'll send our responses to and make those open.
I'm not too sure whether the FOI responses that I've received, bear in mind they're addressed to me, are able. I'll double check to see whether they can.
If they're FOI, if they're
FOI, they're automatically public.
Public,
yeah.
Oh, that's fine then. That's fine then.
But it would be good to at least publicise our response and let people, if they want to get the detail, they can find that, and if they want it, we can hide it, but obviously not hide it, so we can make it public. But they should be able to receive those on the What They Know website and all the rest of it as well.
Because what I was also going to do, I was actually going to, in addition to sending stuff by email attachments to Jeremy Quinn MOD, I was actually going to put hard copies in the post, just in case there's a whiff of wind and it goes off into the ether. They can't say they've not received it because there'll be a hard copy which may well be track and traced as well. I'm sorry, but I've lost all faith at the moment in being told to be told straight. So I want to make sure that we do what we can to to cover all the bases, it were.
Okay, great. And last thing that I wanted to, well, last thing for me, and I promised to raise this with you today, from our local reverend, is that one of the parishioners slipped on the pass earlier in the week, and I wanted to make sure you were aware of that.
Yeah, I saw the message. I didn't see it on the meeting last night, so I clicked off. But one of our parish councillors did send it to me afterwards. I'm actually isolating at the moment, so I can't take him up on his offer. I was going to give Neil an email or a ring to see whether he wants to have a Teams chat with me about it.
Yeah, I think reaching out to him would be good, because I think the lady in question probably needs a little bit of support from the council. I don't know. All I know is it's a lady that slipped. That's all I know. That's all I know.
I'm not too sure what the council will do, because obviously the actual land is MOD land, and it's like buying out, it's buyer beware. But I know that when we had our discussions with the MOD, they were initially looking to do the perimeter works over a 2-year period, and we said that's not acceptable, and they found the money then to do the paths in this financial year by drawing money forward. And right, Joe? They said they would get it done by the 31st of March.
That's right. Weather permitting, of course.
Weather permitting and COVID, yes. That's right.
They've certainly got a lot of work to do if that's the case.
Yeah. And to be honest, it only benefits a percentage of the community. It's not as if everyone can use it. I'll send him. I'll get hold of Neil. I think I've got an email for him still. But I'll find it through John and get in contact and see what the situation was. Okay. So
anything else, anyone?
No. I'll send this stuff.
I think that's great.
Yeah, and I'll send this stuff on to you in the next half an hour.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, both of you. Kate and Pete, do you want to hang on for just a second?
Yep.
Thank you, Nigel. Thank you, Jerry.
Nice to speak to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Stay safe.
Bye.
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 Thank you.